Buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches. Whenever you are watching this video, welcome back to my channel. Now, after a couple of years of doing this job of making content and providing funny videos for you guys every day, I realized that it's not often that I just sit down with you guys and chat about life and tell you a little bit more about myself. When I set out to make content a couple of years ago, I honestly never expected that I would have gotten to the point that it did now. And to this day, it really shocks me that there's so many people interested in my life and my story and what I do every day. And sometimes I'll post stuff on my story on Instagram, for example, and people will be like, whoa, I didn't know that you did that. And I realized there's probably a lot of things that you guys don't even know about me. Entonces, today we're gonna do a bilingual Q&A because I did get questions in English and in Spanish. So for those of you who wanna practice a language today, bilingual Q&A, and let's get to know a little bit more about Maddie's Mundo. I feel like this is a really good question to start out with because it's pretty relevant to understand my life in general, which is what exactly did studying Spanish for 10 years look like for you? Was it daily lessons? Please explain. Obviously, my story as someone who has learned Spanish from the ground up has been pretty unique, just in the fact that it's not common, I would say, in the United States to see a lot of people who are born into, primarily English-speaking families that have a huge interest or, I guess, road like mine to become fluent in another language. So I actually started taking Spanish back when I was 14. And this is pretty interesting because a lot of people say that you'll never become totally fluent if you start learning a language after 14. And I say to those people, because it's totally possible if you just have the ganas, the desire, and the strength to get through the hard portions. I think pretty much at any age you can learn a language. It's really just about your ability to stick it through. So I started learning Spanish at 14 in school, fell in love with the language. I am from Southern California, so I did know a couple words here and there. I had a lot of classmates growing up and friends who were Hispanic. So for me, I was always exposed kind of to the world of Spanish, but truly learning started in high school, actually just in my Spanish 1 class. Really fell in love with the language. Also, when I started working jobs that I needed it for, I worked in a restaurant and I really felt sad and frustrated that I couldn't communicate with a lot of my coworkers. So I really forced myself that year to get better at Spanish. And then I also worked as a birthday party princess for a while, and I worked at a lot of Hispanic birthday parties. And so to be able to talk to the kids, their parents, people at those parties, I also wanted to kind of, force myself to integrate and get to know the language a little bit better. Then I decided to actually go ahead and pursue my degree in the Spanish language. So I went to school in San Diego, studied my Bachelor of Arts in the Spanish language. Then I moved to Spain for a little bit for part of that degree in Sevilla, which is a huge twist and turn in my Spanish learning journey. It really encouraged me to keep going, seeing what life was like in another country. Really inspired me. Traveled all over the Spanish-speaking world, and that was really helpful too when I realized that making meaningful connections with people in your second language really pushed me a lot to learn more and get better. And then I actually moved back to Spain and I lived in Madrid for a year, spent a lot of time in Chile, and so on and so forth. So the majority of my learning experience has been in traditional classrooms, at least for the first few years, but really what pushed me to becoming and getting to the level that I'm at now was unconventional ways of learning languages, like music, social media, making friends, having relationships with people in different languages. That was truly, I would say for me, provided just as much learning as a classroom did. So both are important. And if you're trying to learn a language, it's important that you have a balance between, more structured way of learning a language and a little bit more of a untraditional way as well. Here's an interesting one. Do I have siblings? Yes, and I have one. I have one older brother. His name is Hunter, and he's 3 years older than me, and we get along super well, but we're also the typical siblings who are very opposite, which is pretty funny. So he's definitely math science brained, and I'm definitely art crazy, humanities brained. So we complement each other really well. But yeah, we're really close. Thoughts on long distance relationships and trips? This one is interesting. I myself have gone through some long distance relationships in my life. I think, this is a tricky question. I think it really depends on if you have plans or if you know that you're going to be back with that person at a specific time in the future, if that makes sense. So I feel like if you get into a long distance relationship and there's no real end sight of when you're going to be together again and when you're going to kind of like reconvene. At least in the majority of the cases that I've seen in my life, those ones tend to have less chances of working out. But I think that for the right person and maybe at the right time in your life, long distance relationships could work out. However, it does require a lot of maturity, a lot of patience, and a lot of, I don't know, what word am I looking for? A lot of ability to communicate. Obviously, when you don't see someone for a long time, I think it's very easy to have more problems than normal. So I would say if you are planning on getting into a long distance relationship and you're young, really think about it, because it's the time of your life to enjoy and be in the moment, and you don't want to be constantly looking at your phone, worrying about somebody that's not there. However, if it's the right person, it's the right person. Y ya está, ¿no? ¿Cuántos años tienes? Yo tengo 25 años. I'm 25. And there are days that I feel like that sounds like a big age, and there's days that I say, 25, soy una pendeja. Pero me encanta tener 25. Yo escucho mucha gente en mi vida decir como, ay, ya todo va para abajo, espérate hasta los 30, no sé qué. And I know obviously getting old sucks, but at the same time, I really love being 25. I wouldn't rather be 21 or 22 or 18 or 16. I love being 25. I think I'm going to love being 26. Every year gets better. Obviously, big life changes make huge differences, but I think a lot of it is your mentality, how you take care of yourself, your positivity. And yeah, me encanta tener 25. ¿Cuál es la parte más compleja de aprender español? Muy buena pregunta. La parte más compleja de aprender español para mí ha sido la cantidad de versiones del español que existen en el mundo. Me refiero a los dialectos del español. Obviamente hay 21 países que hablan español, y eso significa que hay 21 maneras de hablar el castellano, el idioma. Entonces pasa que como yo no vengo de una versión específica del español, yo no soy latina, yo no tengo papás que hablan español, pasa que yo partí aprendiendo español mexicano, después aprendí español de España, después de Chile, después de Andalucía, después un poco de Colombia, un poco de Ecuador. Entonces, cuando yo hablo con alguien, es casi como un problema que sé tantas versiones, porque yo siento que cambio mucho la manera que hablo dependiendo con quién estoy hablando, ¿sabes? Entonces, si estoy hablando con un español, me van a salir todas las palabras españolas, me va a cambiar el acentillo, voy a decir tío en vez de weón, por ejemplo. Entonces yo inconscientemente siempre estoy intentando hacer que la otra persona esté cómoda, pero cuando pasa eso, como que no puedo quedarme con un acento, ¿cachai? Cuando estoy con chileno, bueno, ahí sale más chileno, el acento así como cantadito con las palabras, pues bueno, no sé qué. Entonces, sí, es muy chistoso, pero para mí eso ha sido la parte más compleja de aprender español. Que uno puede decir guagua, en Canarias significa bus, y en Chile guagua es un bebé. Oh no, my camera died, but we're back. ¿Qué géneros musicales / artistas en español escuchas repetidamente? Yo escucho casi de todo. A mí me encanta muchos tipos de música. Últimamente estoy escuchando mucha salsa, bachata y como música de los 80 en español. Me encanta como Luis Miguel, los Bunkers, los Prisioneros. Love it. Pero también me gustan las cosas como más modernas. Me encanta el reggaetón, Bad Bunny, Karol G. It really just depends. ¿Cuánto mides? Yo mido, yo creo, en centímetros, 1.70. And in English American, I am 5'6.5" or so. Sometimes people think that I'm shorter than I am, but I'm actually not short. Si me he sentido aislada de mi propia cultura, ahora que el español forma una gran parte de tu ser. Sí, esto es un tema bastante complicado, ¿no? Porque yo ya llevo más de 10 años metiéndome mucho en el mundo del español. Todos mis amigos son de Latinoamérica o de España. Yo tengo pocos amigos hoy en día que son de mi propio país. Entonces me pasa mucho que en ciertas cosas me identifico mucho con la cultura latina, hispana, porque los años formativos de mi vida, ser teenager, o sea, mis como early adulthood, todo ha sido rodeada de gente latina, hispana. Así que en ese sentido siento que he desarrollado muchas cualidades de mi personalidad, de lo que valoro, de esa cultura también. Eso sí, en el fondo, todavía me siento muy gringa en ciertas cosas. Mi familia es gringa, entonces igual pasa que yo me junto con ellos y me siento en casa, no me siento rara. Pero es lindo eso porque siento que puedo identificarme y no identificarme con los dos lados, ¿no? It's a very interesting position to be in. How long does it take for you to make your music videos? Well, if you follow me on not YouTube, you've probably seen some of my crazy music videos, doing covers and stupid videos if you've seen them, and if you haven't seen them, go watch them. They're pretty funny. It depends on what the video is. If I'm doing a cover of a song that already exists, it's a little faster because I just have to translate the lyrics and then sing them. But my process is pretty guerrilla, as they say, like very informal. I literally download the karaoke track, sing it into a tiny microphone on CapCut, edit it all together, and then when I make the actual video part, the longest part is getting dressed in like 5 different outfits. And then I just record it wherever. I erase the background and I green screen it. So maybe about a day usually it takes for me to make them. What makes me appreciative of the Hispanic and Latino community? This is a really good question. Like, a lot of people ask me, of all of the communities that you could have gotten yourself involved in, why? Well, more than anything, first of all, being that I was born in in California in the United States, I've always been surrounded by a lot of Hispanic culture. If you're from SoCal, you know. But I have a really deep connection, not only from that, but just people I've met along the way and friendships I've made. And I've always felt that Hispanic culture I really identify with, because 2 things that they value a lot that I also value is friendships and family and community. And those are 3 things that I've always really wanted in my life. I come from a pretty small family, so I know in Hispanic Latino culture, it's common to have big families and more people count as family too. And so that's something that I want for my future. And it's something that I've always identified with. All of my friends who are from Latin America have really taken me in as a family member to them, and they're always there for me. And that's something that beyond, you know, the food, music, language, that's what has most impacted me along the way. How many years did it take you to become fluent and to where people think you're from Chile? This is an interesting question, and it's a hard one to answer. A lot of people think that you're going to wake up one day and suddenly you're fluent. But what does it really mean to be fluent? You know, everyone has a little bit of a different definition of that. Does that mean to have a conversation with someone? Or does that mean to be able to understand every single time somebody talks to you? Or I don't even do that in English, you know? Does it mean having, you know, not making mistakes or anything? So I would say the point at which I felt comfortable enough that I could, you know, live somewhere else or whatever in my second language without problems was probably 5 or 6 years into my learning journey. Definitely a lot longer along the way than most people would expect. Here's a good one. What's the best way to move abroad to Spain? And tell me more about teaching English. I actually want to make a whole video about this, but to give you a really quick answer here, I think one of the best ways that you can experience living in Spain for a short amount of time without having to deal too much with visas and things like that is going to Spain to be an English teacher. Very important to understand, this is not a vacation. Obviously, you have to work and live there, which is something that I think a lot of people don't understand before jumping into that experience. And you also have to want to and like teaching is another thing. However, I could actually make a whole video about my experience doing this, how I did it, what program I went with. If you guys are interested in that, comment down below. I would love to talk more about my experience being a teacher in Spain, because it definitely changed my life. What's the most embarrassing thing you've ever said in Spanish as a gringa? I have a really funny story about this, and I've told it in more depth in other videos. But once I was going to an ice cream shop in Spain, and I was really nervous. This is the first time I lived abroad, and I didn't know how to say cone in Spanish. Like, I wanted an ice cream cone. And so instead of saying cono, I said coño. I said, me das un coño pequeño. And if you don't know what that means, look it up, I guess. But I asked for something very different than a cono. That was really embarrassing. But it just goes to show that you're going to make mistakes in your second language, and that's part of it. And the moment that you accept that you're not the smartest person in the room and that you're going to be humbled many times is the moment that your Spanish will actually get better, or any language for that matter. ¿Dónde te vas a establecer? ¿Tienes un lugar preferido? Esta pregunta me da un pánico en la vida. Yo me veo viviendo en muchos lugares en mi vida. Por ejemplo, ahora vivo en Los Ángeles. Me ha gustado, pero sé que no quiero terminar aquí, por lo menos por ahora. Esta ciudad es muy buena, tiene muchas oportunidades, pero tampoco me veo viviendo aquí en 1 año, 2 años más. Es una ciudad que es un poco lonely, como decimos en inglés. Hay mucha gente en la industria de la actuación, modelaje, todo, música. Pero igual me encantaría volver a vivir en España, me encantaría vivir en Chile, donde la vida me mande, ¿no? How does a day in the life of Maddie look? That's a good question. My day really varies depending on what I'm doing. It's pretty interesting because I think people think of influencers or people who make content. You imagine that every day you wake up like a celebrity and you go to an event and whatever. But at least living in LA, I actually really don't go to many things related to my job, like as a content creator. Most days I work a normal 9 to 5, I guess, in terms of my schedule. Usually I wake up, work a bunch, record videos, edit stuff. I teach Spanish as well, so I teach my students, plan lessons, whatever the day requires of me, work on my startup. And then usually every single day I try to go and do some sort of exercise. I've been working up to swim a 5K right now, which I'm really hoping I can do. I do tumbling classes where I'm learning how to do a backflip this summer. I used to play pickup soccer a bunch. I love going to the gym to lift weights. Yeah. I do a lot of boxing, I do as well. I do lots of different stuff. I love to be active, cook a lot of food, and hang out. That's it. I don't know. My life is a lot more normal than I guess people would expect, but I love it that way. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Did you have any plateaus in your journey to fluency? And if so, how did you get over them? This is another really great question. I would actually love to make a video talking about this as well. I always compare learning languages to going to the gym, right? And when you first start out, you're super motivated and you're like, wow, I'm gonna learn everything by tomorrow. And then you're super motivated. Maybe for 3 months, you're like studying all the time, every single day. And then one day you wake up and you're like, wow, I suck. How do I get through this? And I think what helped me get through that, and yes, I experienced probably 100 times plateaus, was always keeping my goals close to my heart. Like, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I want people to take me seriously in Spanish, because I want to have a partner who speaks Spanish, because I want to have friends who speak Spanish, because this person, the way their face lit up when I spoke their language to them, that was loud. The way their face lit up when I spoke their language to them was so special that that's what motivates me. So I think keeping those close to you rather than your doubts will get you through that period of doubt and frustration when it comes to learning language. Well, I think that's going to conclude my Q&A today. Thank you guys so much. Muchas gracias por estar aquí for this bilingual Q&A. If you have more questions about me or want to get to know me more, please go ahead and leave them in the comments. Muchas gracias como siempre por apoyarme en todo. Estoy viendo un sueño, la verdad. All thanks to you guys. So thank you all for getting to know me today, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.